Welcome back to our channel, where we dive into captivating stories that tug at your heartstrings and challenge your emotions. Today, we're taking you on a journey through a tale of love, betrayal, and the consequences of forbidden passion. Meet Lily, a young woman torn between duty and desire, as she navigates the complexities of life in a small rural town. This is a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat, so sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Dad, Mom, I'm home. Lily announced, stepping inside. Lily, you're back. Her mother replied. Mrs. Jones is here to see us. Oh, what brings you by? I came to talk to you and your parents about something important, Mrs. Jones said with a knowing smile. Please, have a seat, Mrs. Jones. I'll go get started on dinner. Lily quickly retreated to the back of their humble house. At 20 years old, she was the youngest of 5, and the only one left living with her parents in Willow Creek. It was a quiet, rural town where life revolved around the ever-present struggle to put food on the table. They were barely scraping by, each meal a victory, each day overshadowed by worries about the next. Lily worked tirelessly alongside her parents in the fields, their days a blur of back-breaking labor under the relentless sun. Despite their efforts, there was never enough. Never enough food, never enough clothes, never enough of anything. Her parents, though resigned to their life of hardship, yearned for a better future for their daughter. They often sought Mrs. Jones' services, hoping to find Lily a suitable husband, a man who could offer her a life free from the burden of poverty. There had been a few proposals in the past, but Lily, always using her young age as an excuse, politely declined them all. Her parents, understanding her reluctance, never forced the issue. They simply hoped for a good man, someone who could give their daughter the comfort and ease they could never provide. When Lily turned 18, the son of a well-respected schoolteacher from the next town had come calling. He was handsome and well-spoken, but his charm was overshadowed by a quick temper and condescending air. Lily had politely refused, claiming she was too young for marriage. She had made a half-hearted promise to her parents to reconsider once she turned 20, a promise they readily clung to as they gently declined the young man's offer. It wouldn't be right to force her, you see, Lily remembered them explaining. A young woman needs to be happy with her choice. But those words felt like a distant echo now. Lily was 20 and Mrs. Jones, the most sought-after matchmaker in Willow Creek, was sitting in their living room. Lily knew exactly what they were about to discuss. Lily, come here, dear. We need to talk. Her mother called from the living room. Lily quickly changed out of her mud-caked work clothes, her heart pounding. She smoothed down her dress and walked into the living room, standing quietly behind her mother. What is it? She asked softly. Look at her, so beautiful. You raised such a fine young woman, Mrs. Jones exclaimed, her words dripping with honeyed compliments. Thank you, Mrs. Jones. You're too kind. No, truly. Any man would be lucky to have her. So, have you found any promising matches for my Lily? She's at that age, you know, and I'm eager to see her settled. Lily's mother looked at her, a hopeful expression in her eyes. Lily knew her mother only wanted the best for her, but she couldn't bring herself to be enthusiastic. Mom, I'm happy here with you and Dad. Can't we wait a little longer? She pleaded. Wait for what? You're 20 years old, Lily. Do you want to be an old maid? Her father boomed, his voice laced with frustration. Lily lowered her head, afraid to speak. Don't you worry, dear. Mrs. Jones reassured her. I'll find you a wonderful husband. A beautiful and kind girl like you? You'll have plenty of suitors. But I don't want to go far, Mrs. Jones, Lily interjected. If you could find someone closer to home, that would be wonderful. Closer to home? Her parents and Mrs. Jones exchanged surprised glances. What do you mean closer to home? You think you can find a rich husband in this tiny town? Her father scoffed. Those men are either already married or good for nothing. If you want wealth and comfort, you need to look elsewhere. Dad, please. Honey, calm down. You're scaring her, Lily's mother said soothingly, placing a hand on her husband's arm. Lily, dear, Why don't you want to marry someone from out of town? They're all good men, with good jobs, and they can give you a good life. I don't want a good life if it means leaving you and Dad behind. But don't you see? They can provide for all of us. Think of Mrs. Miller next door. She wasn't half as pretty as you, but she married that nice man from overseas, and now she's got a mansion and more money than she can count. I don't care about any of that. I won't do it. Lily stormed out, her heart heavy with a mix of anger and despair. She retreated to the back of the house and busied herself with preparing dinner, her thoughts a tangled mess of resentment and uncertainty. Lily's outburst cast a shadow over the rest of Mrs. Jones' visit. Her parents, though disappointed, tried to soothe her anxieties, promising not to pressure her. Still, they held onto a glimmer of hope that Mrs. Jones might find a solution, someone who met Lily's specific requirements. A little over a week later, Lily's mother dropped a bombshell. Lily, dear, I need you to get ready. We have someone coming over tomorrow to discuss the wedding. The wedding? Mom, who's getting married? Lily was completely caught off guard. She had almost managed to forget about the matchmaking attempts. Who else? You, of course. You don't think I'm trying to marry off at my age, do you? Her father said, placing his fork down with a clatter. Lily stared at them, completely bewildered. What's going on? Why didn't anyone tell me anything? You said you'd wait. Wait? We've been waiting. And what do you mean, tell you anything? Mrs. Jones found someone for you, just like you wanted. A good man with means. What more could you ask for? But, who is he? Is he from around here? Lily pressed, her apprehension growing with every word. He moved here from upstate a few years ago. He's a widower with a young son. Lily felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. A widower? With a son? But, I don't know anything about raising children. Oh, honey, you don't need to worry about that, her mother said, her voice softening. He's just a year younger than you. More like a little brother than a child. And it's not like you'll be raising him alone. You'll be there to help out, keep an eye on things. And from what I hear, this young man is a hard worker. Doesn't shy away from a bit of labor. Panic tightened its grip on Lily's chest. Her future husband was a widower with a son only a year younger than her? How could her parents even consider this? But Mom, Dad, how old is he? You can't just marry me off to someone twice my age. Twice your age? He's only just 40. It's a good age. A man with experience and means to take care of you. Do you really want to end up with some young buck who's still wet behind the ears? You think a marriage like that would last? You'd just end up miserable, and we don't want that for you. Lily's father stood up, his face flushed with anger, and left the room. Lily's mother sighed, her face creased with worry, and took her daughter's hand. Lily, sweetheart, listen to your mother. It's just the two of them. And he's quite well off. Owns his own business, you know. Your father and I don't care about money, but it would be nice for you to have a comfortable life. A life where you don't have to break your back in the fields every day. Please, just try to see it our way. Lily felt trapped. It was clear her parents had made up their minds. She had no choice but to go along with their plan. What's his name? She whispered, her voice heavy with resignation. His name is David. He used to be in the jewelry business. Apparently, he's quite successful. And Mrs. Jones told me he's a good, honest man. They're both ready to settle down, start a new chapter. Lily could only nod, her heart sinking. It seemed her fate was sealed. The following morning, Lily woke up early to help her mother prepare a special meal for their guests. Just before 9, she noticed two figures approaching the house, a tall man and a younger one. Peeking from behind the curtain, Lily observed them discreetly. The older man had a dignified air, his age, which Lily guessed to be somewhere in his early 40s, not betraying any hint of hardship or struggle. He was actually quite handsome. Then her gaze shifted to the younger man, his features strikingly similar to the older ones. There was a certain boyishness about him, an air of innocence. Lily found herself captivated by the younger man, a strange thought flickering in her mind. Why couldn't he be the one I'm marrying? Why is it the father who gets to choose a new wife, not the son? The absurdity of her musings brought a nervous laugh to her throat. Lost in her thoughts, Lily didn't hear her mother calling her name. Lily, what are you doing? I've called you twice. Bring the tea, quickly. Our guests are here. Startled, Lily grabbed the teapot. Coming, Mom. She hurried after her mother, her heart pounding in her chest. As Lily stepped out from behind the curtain, she felt the weight of the older man's gaze on her. She avoided his eyes, her own darting around nervously before landing on the younger man. Their eyes met, and for a split second, Lily felt a jolt of electricity shoot through her. But the warmth she felt was met with an icy reflection in his eyes. He looked at her with a mixture of resentment and disdain. Lily quickly averted her gaze and focused on pouring the tea, her hands trembling slightly. She arranged the cups on the table and retreated to stand quietly behind her father. Lily, this is David. Her father began, gesturing to the older man. Say hello to him, dear. Before Lily could utter a word, David rose to his feet, a polite smile on his face. Hello, Lily. It's a pleasure to meet you. And this? He said, placing a hand on the younger man's shoulder and gently urging him to stand. Is my son, Alex. Hi. Alex mumbled, his gaze fixed on the table. As soon as he sat down, his eyes shot back up to meet Lily's, a flicker of something akin to hostility in their depths. Lily couldn't help but wonder if he resented her presence. Did he think she was trying to replace his mother? She certainly hadn't asked for this. The meal proceeded in an awkward dance of small talk and forced smiles. Eventually, the topic of the wedding came up, and the details were discussed and decided upon. Lily, feeling utterly powerless, remained silent throughout. She knew her opinion didn't matter. Her future had already been decided. And so, the wedding was arranged, and within a month, Lily found herself standing beside David, exchanging vows in front of their assembled families and friends. The only thing that raised eyebrows was the absence of anyone from David's side, save for his son. David explained that he had lost his parents to illness when he was young, and he was an only child. After a few murmurs and whispers, the guests moved on, happy for Lily, who, they all agreed, had managed to snag herself a successful and kind husband. Lily was now officially a married woman, with a husband and a stepson just a year younger than her. They moved into David's modest home, a cozy two-bedroom house located a short distance from her parents. Lily was taken aback by the relative luxury. Compared to her family's dilapidated farmhouse, David's house felt palatial. There were even a few appliances she'd never seen before, requiring David to show her how to use them. It wasn't until Lily went to bed that night that she realized the sleeping arrangements were a little unconventional. The two bedrooms were separated by a thin sheet of plywood, barely offering any privacy. David, Lily whispered, gesturing to the flimsy partition. Is this normal? Don't worry, honey. David chuckled, wrapping his arms around her. I'll fix it up properly soon. It's just been me and Alex, you know? We never really needed much privacy. Lily tried to relax, but the thought of Alex sleeping just a few feet away made her skin crawl. Needless to say, their wedding night was far from the romantic interlude Lily had always imagined. With the constant awareness of another presence so close by, sleep was impossible. David, sensing her discomfort, held her close throughout the night, offering comfort and reassurance. The following days were strained as both Lily and David tiptoed around each other, acutely aware of Alex's proximity. It felt strange and uncomfortable to be intimate with Alex listening in. David, finally fed up with the situation, decided to take action. He drove into town and returned with lumber and tools, determined to build a proper wall and door between the bedrooms. The added privacy helped, but Lily and David still felt a lingering awkwardness. Intimacy remained a hushed and hurried affair, their passion dampened by the fear of being overheard. Despite this, David was a loving and attentive husband. Lily began to see why her parents had been so eager for her to marry him. However, her relationship with Alex was another matter entirely. David often encouraged his son to call Lily Mom, but Alex refused. Lily didn't push the issue, not wanting to disrupt their already fragile peace. It doesn't matter what he calls me, David, she'd said, trying to make light of the situation. He can call me whatever he's comfortable with. Initially, Alex barely acknowledged Lily's presence, communicating only in grunts and monosyllabic answers. "Dinner ready?" He'd mumble, or, "Where's Dad?" But as the weeks passed, he slowly began to warm up to her, eventually settling on calling her Lily. Their relationship, though still reserved, was slowly evolving. They shared meals, exchanged small talk, and navigated the delicate dance of their unusual family dynamic. Life seemed to be finding a new rhythm. But their newfound stability was shattered barely 2 months later when David announced he had to return to upstate for work. His business partners had opened a new jewelry store, and they needed him there to help manage things. Lily was devastated. They were still newlyweds, and the thought of being separated from him so soon was unbearable. But David was insistent, his arguments for leaving both practical and persuasive. "Lily, it's just for a little while. I need to get things settled there, get this new venture on its feet. It's a good opportunity for all of us. Think about it. Once we're financially secure, I can come back here, and we can all be together. We can finally have the life we deserve." Lily knew he was right. They needed the money, and this was a chance for him to build a better future for them all. Still, the thought of being left alone with Alex while her husband was hundreds of miles away filled her with unease. Despite her reservations, Lily eventually agreed, reluctantly packing his bags and saying a tearful goodbye as he boarded the bus heading north. Lily stood at the bus stop, waving goodbye to David as the bus pulled away, carrying him further and further north. She swallowed back tears, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. The house felt incredibly empty without him. Lily tried to focus on the day-to-day routines. She cooked simple meals, took on odd jobs for neighbors to earn a little extra money, and tended to the small vegetable garden they kept in the backyard. Alex had started working at the sawmill in Maplewood, a neighboring town. It was hard labor, and Alex often complained about the long hours and aching muscles, but David had insisted he take the job. "It'll be good for him," David had said before he left. "Teach him some responsibility, maybe even learn a trade. He can't rely on me forever." 10 days after David's departure, Lily received a letter. He wrote about the new store, assuring her that things were going well, that the work wasn't too tiring. He missed her terribly, he wrote, and missed Alex too. He urged Lily to look after his son, to guide him and keep him out of trouble. Lily wrote back, describing life at home, reassuring David that both she and Alex were well and missed him dearly. As September arrived, the weather turned cooler, and a persistent drizzle set in. One morning, as Alex was leaving for work, he told Lily he wouldn't be home until late. "They need extra hands at the sawmill today," he explained. "Big order to fill. Don't wait up for dinner." "Be careful," Lily said, handing him a raincoat. "Don't want you catching a cold." With Alex gone, Lily had the day to herself. She'd agreed to help her Aunt Mary, who lived a few houses down, with her gardening. They spent the afternoon weeding and tending to her aunt's impressive collection of herbs. By the time Lily returned home, her back was aching, and her clothes were damp from the incessant drizzle. She wasn't expecting Alex home for a few hours, so she decided to take a quick shower. The bathroom was a makeshift affair, a corrugated iron shed attached to the back of the house, with a flimsy sheet for a door. Usually, she would prop a sheet of plywood against the entrance for added privacy when Alex was home, but today, with the rain coming down in sheets and a chill in the air, she decided against it. Lily had just finished showering and was toweling off when she heard footsteps approaching. Before she could call out, the sheet was pulled aside, and Alex stepped in. He froze, his eyes widening as he took in the sight of Lily, completely nude, her back turned towards him. The towel she'd been holding slipped from her grasp, falling to the wet floor with a soft thud. Alex, his chest bare, a towel slung low on his hips, stared at her, his mouth slightly agape. He bent down, retrieved the towel from the floor, but instead of handing it back, he draped it over the makeshift clothes rack. "Trying to seduce me, Lily?" he whispered, taking a step closer. Lily's cheeks burned. She instinctively crossed her arms over her chest, a futile attempt to cover herself. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to move, to get away, but her feet felt rooted to the spot. Alex leaned in close, his warm breath tickling her ear. "You're beautiful," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. Lily's mind raced. Push him away. Get out. What are you doing? But another part of her, a part she didn't recognize, wanted him to stay. Suddenly, Alex's lips were on hers, his kiss hesitant at first, then deepening with a hunger that surprised them both. Lily's initial shock gave way to an intoxicating wave of desire. Alex's touch was electrifying, igniting a fire in her that she didn't know existed. He was young, inexperienced, but there was a raw passion in his touch that left her breathless. Lily felt herself responding to him, her body pressing against his. She'd only been with David, and their intimacy had always felt a little restrained, burdened by their circumstances. But this was different. This was dangerous, forbidden, and utterly intoxicating. She felt alive. Lily, Alex breathed, his hands exploring her body with a mix of wonder and urgency. I don't know what to do. His words, so innocent, so vulnerable, sparked a different kind of desire in Lily. Alex was young, strong, his body a symphony of lean muscle honed by hard work. He was the physical embodiment of everything David wasn't. Lily found herself wanting to guide him, to show him, to lose herself in the heat of their forbidden encounter. It's all right, she whispered, her voice husky with desire. Let me show you. Lily reached for Alex's hand, her fingers interlacing with his. She began to guide him, exploring the uncharted territory of their desires. Their initial encounter was a hesitant dance of touches, kisses, and whispered confessions. They stopped before crossing the final line, each aware of the weight of their actions, the unspoken fear that lingered between them. But the fire, once ignited, was impossible to extinguish. They both knew they wanted more. The unspoken tension became a tangible presence in the house. They fell into a routine, their days filled with work and mundane chores, their nights a stolen symphony of forbidden desire. They woke up in separate rooms, ate breakfast together, exchanging polite conversation about David. But each night, as soon as darkness fell, Alex would find his way to Lily's room. They craved each other's touch, the heat of their bodies pressed together, but neither dared to go further. Lily was tormented by guilt and fear. She'd been raised with the traditional values of a dutiful wife, taught to obey her husband, to avert her gaze from other men. And now, here she was, betraying her husband with his own son. The thought of anyone discovering their secret filled her with shame. What would people say? What would her parents think? She could never face them again. Lily longed to give in to her desires, to explore the depths of her newfound passion, but the potential consequences were too terrifying to contemplate. Yet, every time she felt Alex's arms around her, every time their skin brushed, the fire within her rekindled, burning away her doubts and inhibitions. And then, one night, during a furious thunderstorm, the fragile dam of their restraint finally broke. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and sending shivers down Lily's spine. Curled up in bed, she read David's latest letter aloud to Alex. He says the store is doing well, Lily said softly, her fingers tracing the lines of David's familiar handwriting. He's working hard but says it's worth it. He asks about you, says to tell you he's proud of you for working at the sawmill. Wants me to make sure you're not getting into any trouble. Alex smiled, a rare sight these days. He's always worrying, isn't he? He leaned forward and kissed Lily's forehead, his lips lingering on her skin. You're too good for him, you know. I think I want to steal you away from him. He chuckled, the sound both playful and laced with a seriousness that sent shivers down Lily's spine. She laughed too, a nervous flutter in her chest. They were like two young lovers, their illicit affair a secret world of stolen moments and whispered promises. For a brief, glorious moment, they could almost pretend their relationship wasn't built on a foundation of deceit and betrayal. As their laughter faded, Alex leaned in, his lips finding Lily's in a kiss that was both tender and demanding. The kiss deepened, erasing the last vestiges of Lily's resistance, unleashing a torrent of desire she had been holding at bay for far too long. This time, she met his passion with her own, her arms winding around his neck, pulling him closer. Outside, the storm raged on, wind whistling through the cracks in the walls, but inside, the air crackled with a different kind of energy. The flimsy walls of the house faded away as Lily and Alex lost themselves in the heat of the moment. Lily was no longer aware of the thin blanket that had fallen away, the darkness of the room illuminated only by the faint glow of a distant light. She saw only Alex, his eyes blazing with a desire that mirrored her own. She gave herself over to the sensations that washed over her, each touch, each kiss, a delicious exploration of their forbidden longing. Alex, guided by instinct and fueled by youthful passion, was surprisingly adept. He moved with a confidence that belied his inexperience, his touch both gentle and demanding, leaving Lily feeling cherished and adored. The storm outside seemed to echo the tempest raging within the confines of their small room. The wind howled, rain lashed against the walls, but none of it mattered. The only sounds that reached Lily's ears were the sounds of their pleasure, their gasps and moans, a symphony of forbidden desire. They were safe, hidden from the judgment of the outside world, their secret hidden within the heart of the storm. Lily had never experienced anything like it. Her body trembled, every nerve ending alive with sensation. Alex moved over her, his weight both comforting and exhilarating. They clung to each other, riding the waves of their passion, their breaths mingling in the darkness. As they reached the peak together, Lily felt a sense of completeness, a blissful union of body and soul that she had never thought possible. But as quickly as the euphoria arrived, it receded, leaving behind a residue of guilt and fear. Reality came crashing back, cold and unforgiving. What had she done? She had betrayed her husband, her vows, her own sense of right and wrong. The thought of getting caught, of facing the consequences of their actions, was terrifying. Alex, sensing her withdrawal, pulled back, his hand gently stroking her cheek. "What is it, Lily? Are you scared?" he asked, his voice a husky whisper. "Yes," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. This is wrong. We can't." "But it felt so good," Alex protested, his fingers tracing the curve of her shoulder. "You enjoyed it too, I know you did." Lily couldn't deny it. She had enjoyed it, more than she cared to admit, even to herself. "Alex, this can never happen again. You're young, you don't understand the implications. If anyone ever found out." She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. "I won't tell anyone, I promise," Alex said, his voice earnest. "It's not just lust, Lily, I care about you. I want to be with you, for real." Lily's heart ached. She couldn't bear to hurt him, to make him feel like this was just a fleeting moment of weakness. But what choice did she have? They lay together, their bodies entwined, as Lily tried to soothe both his anxieties and her own, their words hollow reassurances in the face of their transgression. Despite knowing what they were doing was wrong, they couldn't seem to stay away from each other. Lily found herself drawn to Alex more and more each day. She stopped eagerly anticipating David's letters, her thoughts consumed instead with Alex, his smile, his touch, the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't looking. The guilt was still there, a constant ache in her heart, but it was slowly being overshadowed by a deeper, more complicated emotion. She was falling for her stepson, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. David had become a distant memory, his presence in her life reduced to the occasional letter and the ever-present awareness of his impending return. She tried to push those thoughts away, to savor the stolen moments with Alex, but deep down, she knew their time together was running out. "I don't want to call you, Mom, anymore," Alex whispered one night, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. "And I don't want to pretend we're just friends. What are we, Lily?" Lily didn't have an answer for him, not one that wouldn't shatter the fragile illusion of happiness they'd built together. They spent their nights lost in a world of their own making, their whispered names the only testament to the depths of their passion. But as the year drew to a close, a letter arrived that threatened to shatter their fragile happiness. David was coming home for the holidays. Lily reread the letter, her heart sinking with every word. He wrote about his excitement to see them both, about the gifts he was bringing back, about how much he missed them. He asked if there was anything special Lily wanted, anything he could bring her from his travels. She didn't write back. How could she? What words could possibly express the turmoil raging inside her? She spent her days in a haze of anxiety, composing countless lies in her head, each more unconvincing than the last. 2 days before David was due to arrive, Lily knew she couldn't keep the truth from Alex any longer. They were lying in bed, their bodies still entwined after a night of passion, when she broke the news. "Alex," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "David, he's coming home. In 2 days." A heavy silence descended upon them. Lily waited for Alex to explode, to unleash the storm of emotions she knew he must be feeling. But he just stared at her, his expression unreadable. "Lily," he finally said, his voice quiet but steady. "We have to tell him. About us." "Tell him? Tell him what? Are you crazy?" Lily shot up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. "He can't know, Alex. He'll. She couldn't bring herself to say the words. The thought of David's pain, the betrayal in his eyes, was unbearable. "He won't hurt me, Lily," Alex said, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away. "No, Alex. We can't tell him. It's too dangerous. We have to keep it a secret. Please." Her voice cracked with unshed tears. She couldn't bear the thought of their secret being exposed, of the damage it would inflict. "But he deserves to know. We can't keep living like this, Lily. It's not fair, to any of us. Don't you see?" Lily pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm the one who'll get hurt. He'll leave me, Alex. He'll hate me. And what about my parents? How could I ever face them again?" "He won't hate you, Lily. I won't let him." There was a steely glint in Alex's eyes. "I love you. I want to be with you, truly with you. Not like this. Don't you feel it too?" Lily couldn't answer him, couldn't bear to acknowledge the truth of his words. Deep down, she knew he was right. This charade couldn't last forever. But the thought of the fallout, the pain it would cause, was too much to bear. The 2 days that followed were agonizing. Lily oscillated between a desperate hope that everything would magically work itself out and a crushing sense of dread. She considered every possible scenario, every potential consequence, but none of the choices felt right. Could she confess everything to David and pray for his forgiveness? Could she live a lie, pretending to be the dutiful wife while her heart ached for another? Or should she run, disappear from their lives and try to start over, forever haunted by her betrayal? On the day David was due home, Lily found herself standing at the end of the lane, her heart pounding in her chest. She had chosen to stay, to face the consequences of her actions, but as David's familiar figure appeared in the distance, a wave of nausea washed over her. He looked happy, his face illuminated with a broad smile as he approached, his arms laden with gifts for her and Alex. The sight of his genuine happiness, the love in his eyes as he embraced her, shattered what little composure Lily had left. He had been so excited to come home, to be with the woman he loved, completely oblivious to the betrayal that had unfolded in his absence. Lily felt a wave of shame wash over her. She had been so consumed by her own desires, she hadn't stopped to consider the depth of his love, the pain she was about to inflict. How could she have been so selfish? That evening, after a strained dinner, Lily decided to confess. As David sipped his tea, Lily knelt before him, her heart pounding in her chest. David's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Before he could speak, Alex joined her, kneeling beside her on the floor, his hand reaching out to clasp hers. "What's going on here? What are you two up to?" David asked, his confusion evident. Lily tried to pull her hand away from Alex's grip, but he held on tight. She stammered, unsure how to begin her confession, the weight of her guilt suffocating her. I love her," Alex blurted out, his voice firm despite the tremor in his hand. "I love Lily, and she loves me too. Please, Dad, you have to understand. We want to be together. Please, accept us." The color drained from David's face, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. The teacup slipped from his grasp, shattering against the floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. What are you talking about?" David's voice was dangerously low. He rose from his chair, towering over them. "What have you done?" Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. "Alex, stop it. This isn't the way," she hissed, but Alex ignored her, his gaze fixed on his father. "We're in love," Alex insisted, his voice rising in desperation. David stared at them, his face a mask of barely contained rage. He looked from Lily to Alex and back again, as if unable to comprehend the scene unfolding before him. "Get up," he finally said, his voice cold and hard. "Both of you." Lily scrambled to her feet, her legs trembling beneath her. Shame and fear burned in her throat, choking back the words of apology she longed to utter. David turned to Alex, his eyes blazing with a fury that sent a chill down Lily's spine. "You, out, now." Alex hesitated, his gaze flickering between Lily and his father. He opened his mouth to speak, but David cut him off with a look that brooked no argument. Lily watched, her heart breaking, as Alex slowly rose to his feet and walked out of the room. David stood there for a long moment, his chest heaving, his eyes fixed on the empty doorway. He turned to Lily, and the look in his eyes, a mixture of pain, betrayal, and something akin to pity, was almost more than she could bear. Do you love him?" David's voice was barely a whisper, hoarse with unshed tears. Did she love Alex? The question echoed in the silence. It wasn't a simple yes or no. There was guilt, there was desire, but there was also a tenderness, a connection that went beyond the physical. I don't know," she whispered, her voice cracking with unshed tears. Lily couldn't meet his gaze. How could she? She had betrayed him in the worst way imaginable. David sighed, the sound heavy with defeat. He reached into his bag and pulled out a thick envelope. "Here, take this. It's everything I've saved, everything I've earned these past few months." "David, I don't want your money." Lily's voice was choked with shame. "Just take it," he said, pressing the envelope into her hand. I can't just pretend this never happened. I'm going back up north tomorrow, and Alex, he's coming with me. Stay here, talk to your parents, explain things to them. It's over, Lily. Between us, between all of us." Lily looked down at the envelope in her hand, then back at David. His face was pale, etched with a pain that mirrored her own. She wanted to apologize, to explain, to beg for his forgiveness, but the words wouldn't come. What could she possibly say that would erase the hurt she had caused? That night, as the first rooster crowed, signaling the break of dawn, Lily quietly slipped out of the house. She couldn't bear to face David, couldn't bear to see the judgment in his eyes. And she couldn't face Alex, not now, knowing that their love had caused so much pain. She left the envelope on the kitchen table, a silent apology for a betrayal she couldn't take back. As she walked away, her footsteps echoing in the early morning stillness, Lily knew she was leaving behind more than just a home. She was leaving behind a part of herself, a part she wasn't sure she would ever find again. She didn't know where she was going, what the future held, but one thing was certain: she could not escape the consequences of her actions, the stain of their forbidden love that would forever taint her heart. She could only hope that someday, somehow, both David and Alex would find a way to forgive her. And that's the story of Lily, a tale of love, regret, and the heavy price of following your heart against all odds. Life isn't always black and white, and sometimes the choices we make lead us down paths we never expected. If you found yourself moved by this story, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more thought-provoking tales, and leave a comment below letting us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the depths of human emotions with us here on